Hey, Sven here. Lately, I've made a few videos about agents, and as I was thinking about it, Agent.ai also came to mind. It's a website I've been following since the beta phase, I don't know, maybe about a year ago or so. And this site was founded by Damek. He's one of the founders of HubSpot. He said, I want to put together this network of agents that are currently freely available. And now a lot of people have already participated and published agents here. And as you can see here in the search field, there are currently 1,681 of them. And through this platform, you can use the agents directly. But recently, there's also a module for Make, which means you can not only integrate the agents into Make, but maybe also do something else with them downstream. Today, I picked out a scenario where I thought, well, there are agents that, for example, can optimize or analyze a LinkedIn profile. So why not just integrate that into a Make scenario so that we basically have a concrete use case for it? So if you follow along here, you won't just be able to integrate the agents afterwards, but you can also consider how you can use these functions I'm showing here to unlock even more possibilities. I'm Sven, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been working on process optimization and quality for over 33 years. And that's not just in business, but in all areas of life. And much of what I can do today, I learned through experience and trial and error, and I know what really works. And in my videos, I want to show you how you can use intelligent process automation profitably for yourself and your business. And if you're not quite sure where to start, then just book a free call with me. You'll find the link for that below the video. So let's get started. As I mentioned, all the agents are published on this platform. You should click through the menus, and here in the profile, you also find integrations. There you can find the API key that we'll need for the connection and much more. It's all more or less self-explanatory. Just take a look at it yourself. These agents are then listed down here. As you can see, they can also be rated. You can run them directly here. And I just thought I'll search for LinkedIn. And then I stopped at one here called LinkedIn Profile Analyzer. And what's especially important here, at least, I haven't found a better solution, is that if you hover your mouse over such an agent, you'll see at the bottom in the browser bar, it shows the address, agent ID, profile, and in this case, for example, 6KQM and so on. And that's the ID. This ID is what we'll need later in Make to call up this agent. The only solution I found was to simply right-click here and copy the address, then go somewhere where I can paste this text and then enter it into Make accordingly. There's probably another way to do it, but I couldn't figure it out quickly. If I now call up such an agent and execute it, which I've already done here, I simply enter the URL in this case and then get a result like this. And this result, as you can see, is top 5 suggestions for enhancement. Then the profile is somehow summarized here. And at the very bottom, there's some more information. Where is it? Well, strange. Okay, in this particular case, it's missing now. When I called it up before, there was some additional information about what else could be improved in the profile. Anyway, that's the result, and I wanted to process this result accordingly. And I'll show you now how I did that here in the automation. The first thing I do, I call up the scenario from Airtable with a link. And in this link, I enter the URL of the profile I want to analyze. Then I call the agent, retrieve the data, create a PDF from it, upload that to Google Drive, then create a task list for this profile, extract the tasks from the text, that is the improvement suggestions, and then go through them and create individual entries in Google Tasks. That way, I haven't just analyzed such a profile and can read it, but I've also specifically defined tasks for myself that I can then use to actually improve the profile. I just say, let's run it, and then take a look at the results to see what the individual steps are and what I actually did there. So let's first go into Airtable. And as you can already see here, up there, I've put in my own profile, and then you can see the analysis here. Basically, this is a markdown text that's in here, which contains everything. And here, for example, are these additional recommendations that I was looking for in the other window earlier, where now there are 3 additional suggestions included. And this attachment That's a PDF that I generated, but I'll show you that after the execution. So if I want to analyze Bill Gates' profile, then I just need the address here. So as we can see here, when I click on it, I just copy this address out of here. I've already done that. Then I paste it here into this cell and click on Analyze. Then the scenario starts, but since I forgot to run it, I'll run it now. And then the system asks me here, okay, do you want to use the existing data in the webhook queue? Then I say, yes, use existing data, and now the thing gets going. It reads the Airtable. Now the agent is being called. That also takes a little while. And now you have to imagine it like this. These agents basically have a standard interface, which is then used accordingly. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like in data once we've run the agent and can look at the result. Then I process some data, create a PDF from the Markdown, upload the document, update the Airtable record, then create a specific task list for this job, extract the tasks from the text, and then go through the tasks one by one. And in this case, these 8 tasks are created. Let's go through each element step by step. The result from the webhook is just the record ID, which I pass along. And then from this Airtable LinkedIn profiles, I use the record ID to retrieve the data. And in this case, if we click on it now, we can see that it's the Bill Gates address that came out here. So, and with the agent, it's basically like this. When I add a connection here, it just wants an API key. As I mentioned, you can find it on the profile page of Agent.ai. And then I can enter this agent ID here, which I copied earlier. And the moment I select the agent here, one or more of these fields will appear where the relevant data is requested. So for example, here we are analyzing a LinkedIn profile. So you need the address of the LinkedIn profile. And that's defined in this agent, which is why it's known here and is displayed accordingly. So logically, I now use the URL from Airtable here. And when I look at the result, it's simply a large markdown text. And usually you can't do much with that. That's why I came up with a very simple idea. How could I handle the text in a meaningful way? Up here, I see these 5 suggestions. Then comes the profile itself. And here the markdown text is actually displayed as well. And down here, there are additional recommendations. So I simply thought, okay, I'll split it at these backticks, meaning at these markdown. That's exactly what I did with this video. But I just split it at these 3 backticks and also extracted the profile name from the URL. So in this case, it's William H. Gates. So we can see that here in the result. That means the split response now consists of 3 texts. First, the top 5 suggestions. Second, the profile itself. And third, the profile name. And in the profile itself, there are the backticks and also the word markdown, right? That's 8 characters plus a space. I'll show you in a moment what you can do with that. So then with ZERO Code Kit, there's a function called markdown string to PDF. It's really straightforward. You basically just need to pass in a markdown text and then a PDF is generated from it. There are 2 things to keep in mind here. I just showed it here. There's the word markdown right at the beginning. That means I remove this part using the stop string command and then go to the total length. So I start extracting from position 9 of the string all the way to the end. This function ultimately returns a PDF, but in different formats, and in this case, actually as a buffer, as a binary file. And since Google Drive can process that directly, I don't need to do anything else. Yeah. So I then specified a folder using LinkedIn get file. Here I'm now using the profile, which means a file called William H. Gates. PDF is generated, and then I can directly copy the data that's provided there. A quick little detour into ZERO Code Kit. It's a really cool collection of now almost 200 functions. And when you open this up, you usually only have certain fields that are preset. But then there are also other input parameters here. And if you go to the website, you'll find information about each function, for example. And here it says, for example, receive result is direct download URL. But that's not the case here, as we just saw it's with Neri. That's why it's better to look into the API documentation. And if you look into the documentation for this function, for example, it says here, convert markdown. And now you can see here in the body, that's the markdown stream. Then I can specify some CSS to change the appearance a bit. And now there's a parameter here called getS URL. And if I set that to true, then I actually get a URL as a result where I can directly download the PDF. And then instead of data, the result would now include parameters like URL and file appearing here. Then I can simply use yes, something like get file or some HTTP method to download it. So it's really important to understand if you use zero-code functionalities, always check the documentation if you're unsure how these individual functions actually need to be used. Yes. So then I upload the whole thing to Google Drive. Then I set the corresponding field in the A table. That means I simply write the agent's response into the analysis here. And here I put the web view link from Google Drive. Then I create a task list. From this task list, I simply enter the person's name. In this case, again, William H. Gates. And then I use JGBT to extract the tasks from the two parts of the agent's text. So here I say, you will receive two texts. The first text contains these suggestions on how to improve LinkedIn profiles. The second contains additional recommendations. Extract the suggestions and recommendations and respond with this JSON document where I simply provided a small array like this. And then I pass from this splitting up here from the variables, I then pass the first and the third part of this string that we receive from the agent. Yes, and here the JSON object is the response, and I parse the JSON response so that I can process it further right away. And then if I look at the result now, I get this array with these 8 entries in this case, 8 entries. I then iterate over these 8 entries and simply create the tasks, namely in this task list that I set up earlier using the method create a task. The title is simply the value that is extracted from the text by the iterator. So what does the whole thing look like? Let's take a look at the result. Let's first go into Airtable. Here we can now see all this markdown text, which I can actually read through quite well here. That's pretty helpful. Then I have the attachment here, meaning this PDF that was created in my drive. And it doesn't look pretty right now, but at least it's well formatted in terms of the headings like H1, H2, and so on, since it comes from Markdown. And with the CSS you just saw, you could now format it with a different font and give it a better design accordingly. And finally, I also have, let me switch over to the tasks here. Here you can see this is the normal task list. Now he has created a second list here, William H. Gates. There are 8 tasks in it, and you can actually see them here now. Let's take a look at what Bill Gates was supposed to do. Record pronunciation of your name. Okay. And down here, something like, I don't know, add detailed descriptions for each position and so on. So for Bill Gates, that might not really be necessary. But as you can see, you could now systematically update LinkedIn profiles like this, maybe even offer it as a service for others. I think it's actually a pretty nice idea. So let's quickly go back to the agents. This is a really cool website. Check it out. There's a lot of documentation here as well, explaining what agents are and so on. And I think it's explained quite well, even for non-techies. So have fun with the agents, take a look, and maybe you'll come up with some cool ideas for what you can build with these agents in an X scenario. Until next time, bye.